Hi everyone, this is Adrian Walker. This is the Walker Report, and this is going to be our first full video. And I think the only thing I want to point out about it is this is still a work in progress. So I've tried several versions of doing this today, including reading from a teleprompter, reading from my notes, and generally they didn't feel like they worked very well. So bear with me as I try and get through this. I'm going to try and explain why it is that investors should stay in the markets. And I'm going to try and do it in about 4 minutes or less, because I think that is the best way to try and convey a message here without spending too much time reading from prepared remarks and still looking as natural as possible. So here goes. I don't get this question quite as much as I used to. I think it is a fairly settled question. I think the answer can feel a bit glib to people who are living through really turbulent markets and they're looking at their retirement savings and they're wondering what's going to happen next. But the question is, why don't I sell? Why wouldn't I just take the money that I've got, put it aside, secure it, know that my nest egg is protected? Why is that not a good idea in really bad markets? And you can look at the market and you can see it going down and it's 2,000 points and another 2,000 points. And you wonder, your advisor is sitting there and he's saying, look, you gotta just buckle under here. We gotta go with this. It's gonna be all right, but it's gonna take time. That can feel pretty hollow to someone who's watching their money, erode away, or at least the value of their investments erode away. The actual money itself is still there. So the best way to explain it is, unfortunately, so long as you don't need the money immediately, and so long as you still have a financial plan that you're following, and that financial plan has not changed as a result of, something in your life. You've retired early, or you've been, you've suddenly taken on a surprising amount of debt or something like that. So long as the original financial plan that you're working with still makes sense and that you have a diversified portfolio of investments that are in line with that financial plan and there to help achieve those goals, you should stay invested, because the market volatility really hasn't changed any of those aspects for you. In fact, if anything, you need the plan more than ever. And the reason for this is that historically, when investors try and second guess the markets or try and time the markets, and even if you don't feel like you're timing the markets by pulling your money out, in effect that's what you're doing. The studies, every study that we have, shows that investors just do worse. They do worse than every comparable benchmark. There's simply no period where they do better, and they cement their losses. And by cement their losses, I mean they permanently lose money compared to those people who are able to stay invested. And that is a really unfortunate outcome, because what you buy for the short-term peace of mind may in fact be a greatly diminished retirement and less time to rebuild your retirement funds to the level that you needed them to be at. That's the kind of thing that I think it worries me as a financial advisor, because that's what you're working against. You've got a limited amount of time to get people where they need to be, and if you sell in a really bad market, invariably what you do is you commit yourself to being out at a certain point, but you have not come up with a plan to commit yourself to going back in. And even if you're quite sure that you will go back in, you're just going to go back in when markets improve. And the problem with that is we just don't know when that's going to be. And invariably, despite the fact that we have had a history of all kinds of things that have brought market turbulence, we've had wars and cold wars and the threat of nuclear Armageddon. We've had recessions and other pandemics and terrorist attacks and the complete collapse of the global financial system. And today, while we're looking at a global pandemic of such magnitude that there is almost an organized response globally, even in that, when the market does turn around and we do start gaining ground again, and we will, it will do it at the bottom end at a rate faster and easier then will be recaptured when you decide to get back in. And the reason for that is that because once you've taken the money out of the market, your idea of the point of safety is above the point where you sold it, because above the point where you sold it will feel like that is where the recovery is. But the recovery begins at the bottom, and the bottom is when you need to be to get the full recovery, to get the easiest part of the recovery. That's the gist of it. And I think that if you are looking at the market today, it can be extremely challenging to see past the immediacy of the kinds of sell-offs that we've seen. They can be extremely disheartening, and the short-term events, and they have been dramatic, and they have been everywhere in the news, and it's hard to escape them. But the short-term events of watching that money decrease, or the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 and the TSX decrease at a very, very rapid rate, can start to become a feeling of that's what it's going to be like into the future as well. And it won't be. That's the truth. At some point, those markets will turn around. And when they turn around, they'll turn around quite quickly, and we'll start seeing the money come back in. But the unfortunate thing is, for the investors that got out, they'll have lost that money permanently, and they will not feel confident to get back in. So here's what I would say, and I think every other financial advisor out there would agree. Investing is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And my job is to run that race with you and make sure you finish it where you need to finish it. And so long as you don't need money right away, and so long as your financial plan makes sense for you, that's the plan that you should commit to, and that's the plan that's going to get you across the finish line. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to email me. You know how to reach me by phone. If you have ideas or questions that you would like to see answered in one of these videos, again, please send me a note. And I would add to that because this is YouTube, I think I meant to say something like and subscribe, but I'll leave that up to you. And thanks very much for watching. I'll be back next week. This is the Walker Report. I'm Adrian Walker, and I hope you've enjoyed our first video, and we'll refine this process down in the very near future. Cheers. Thank you very much.